For all of its antiquity, Kirkham appears in the Domesday Book of Kirkham, meaning somewhat mundanely the hamlet with the church. There's not a great deal of history on show in Kirkham. Similar to Poulton the File, the town has its own dubious set of medieval fish stones, where, or so the tourists are informed, during the Middle Ages the fishmongers bartered their wares. The fact that the fish stones were replaced in 1829 isn't something that's broadcast quite as loudly. To be honest, barely anything managed to survive the purge of the Victorians, apart from the market. The town has held the market regularly since 1296 and, unlike Poulton the File, has the charter to prove it. In the centre of the fish stones stands a cast iron lamp. It dates from 1872 and was provided by Thomas Langton Burley. A public lamp lit with oil at the town's charge was ordered to be erected at some convenient place in 1692. Exactly where that was, we don't honestly know, probably in the same place that the current one stands. There was a market cross here as well once, but predictably, along with the original lamp, it's long since disappeared. There's an 18th century sundial shaft in the grounds of St Michael's as well, but we couldn't find it. St Michael's itself was rebuilt in 1822 over the top of the original church of AD 684. The Victorians really didn't give us stuff. There's a rock-cut tomb in the churchyard that's probably Norse, similar to those at Heysham Church. Unfortunately, the verger, or whoever looks after the place, doesn't seem to know what it is, so nowadays it's being used as a plant pot. Like most Lancastrian churches, St Michael's has had its fair share of miscreant clergy. Take Nicholas Helm, for example, who in 1598 was accused of illegally having bought his way into the vicarage, of keeping another man's wife in his house under suspicious circumstances, refusing to wear a surplice, and administering wine as it came from the cellar without any prayers or reverence. More macabre, perhaps, in 1646 the rector, Edward Fleetwood, published a book entitled Strange Signs from Heaven. It detailed an account of Mr. Horton, Kirkham parishioner. Horton, along with his mother-in-law, did usually scoff and mock the Roundheads, and, in derision of Mr. Prynne and the others, cut off the cat's ears and called it by his name. He sounds like a great bloke. If that wasn't bad enough, his pregnant wife publicly declared that rather than be a roundhead or bear one, the child might be born without a head. As the old saying goes, be careful what you wish for. There's no point describing what happened at the birth. On which unpleasant note, let's change the subject. There's a windmill in Kirkham, well, an ex-windmill. It might not be grinding out the flour nowadays, but at least it's not been demolished yet. Also known as Windy Milne, the converted mill went up for sale in 2014 for the princely sum of £650,000. Naturally, we were tempted to buy it, but after a quick search down the back of the sofa produced only 35 pence, we changed our minds. It wasn't the first mill in Kirkham. There are records of a windmill in Kirkham dating back as far as the 14th century. At one time there were 11 mills in total, although those were of the variety that powered looms rather than produced flour. The last to be built was Progress Mill in 1915. The looms have all stopped running now. On Station Road, the last loom of all, used for making velvet and Bedford cord in the 1920s, can be found on display in a transparent tunnel that resembles a modern bus shelter. Apparently, we couldn't find it, but then again we didn't look very hard, so who knows. Getting back to Kirkham Windmill, however, it has the unique distinction, possibly in the whole of Great Britain if not the entire world, of being the only tower mill ever built on top of a Roman fort. Did we mention that Kirkham was old? Archaeologists have known about Dalbridge since Victorian times. Roman memorabilia had been cropping up in the neighbourhood for ages. Shield bosses, an altar dedicated to 3 Roman goddesses, now in Lund Church, an urn filled with pieces of broken skull, coins, Samian-ware, amulets, the Ribchester to Kirkham Roman Road, along with the much disputed Danes-pad, the cause of many an argument amongst local historians. It all mounted up. Not that you can see much left of it, because it's all buried beneath the housing estate nowadays, but still. Enough of that. Let's have a couple of ghost stories. Just up the road from Dalbridge stands the Bell and Bottle restaurant. In times long past, it was a public house complete with stables, where, unfortunately, the stable boy, or so it is said, was trampled to death by the horses. What caused this to happen, nobody seems to know, but on several occasions his ghost has been seen wandering aimlessly around the restaurant. A somewhat meatier ghost story, although the ghost itself is considerably less meaty, can be found at Mowbray Hall. Or rather, it can't be found at Mowbray Hall because Mowbray Hall was destroyed by fire in the 1960s. What was left of George, which consisted entirely of his severed head, was first seen haunting the chapel there in 1583. As far as we can work out, because the details are sketchy to say the least, George was a practicing Catholic at a time when it was more expedient to be Protestant. He was arrested and executed. We're guessing that some sort of axe or other sharp instrument was involved. Ever since, his shrieking skull has appeared at times of crisis, warning Mowbray's residents of impending doom. Presumably, after the hall burned down, his head went into retirement and joined the rest of him. Click like, subscribe, whatever, we don't care. We'll probably be back next week with another episode of Lancashire Footnotes regardless, because, to be honest, we've got nothing better to do.